This podcast is designed to inspire and propel you to a newfound level of empowerment and clarity. Through cultivating the art of thinking, you'll learn how to detangle your thought knots and train your brain to break through obstacles. You'll learn to focus on what matters most and make effective choices to become a remarkable you. Hello everyone, my name is Pamela Pitcher and welcome to my podcast. As a master of neurolinguistic programming, a motivational coach, and a hypnotherapist, I'll be sharing tips, tools, and techniques to help you awaken to the best you. Hello everyone. Before I begin today's podcast, I just thought I'd let you know that it includes a very short guided meditation to help you get rid of a negative thought towards the end. So you'll want to be someplace where you will not be disturbed and you can safely close your eyes. In the Developing Flexibility of Perspective series, we learned that being right doesn't count. You may be right from your perspective, but not necessarily from one that is shared by others. Therefore, if I think you are judging me negatively, it doesn't bother me because you are judging the me you perceive and not the real me. Consequently, I can relax into confidence because I know your perception of me reflects your thinking. Personally, I see no positivity in worrying about what others think of us. It truly is something to let go of. Instead, I invite you to get into the habit of asking people you respect and trust, to give honest and impartial feedback. This will help you become more self-aware and lead to greater confidence, because they'll either compliment you or share with you room for improvement, and either way you'll win. Genomics is the study of personal genes, and according to genetic research, 99.9% of our DNA is the same. We're all made up of the same stuff regardless of our background or perceived level of success. What makes us different is our perception, our view of the world, our thinking patterns, and the 0.01% of DNA. The key to unlock the future of your dreams is to have the desire to improve yourself. Our personal history and genetic disposition have contributed to how we think, and our lives are a result of how we think. And none of that matters as much as the person you want to be. If we want to be different, to have a different life with better results, we need to think differently. It's that simple. For most of us, we weren't taught how to think in school or by our caregivers. We were taught what our society and culture thought was good and bad, right and wrong. We learned to read and write and play games, but we received little guidance as how to be consciously aware of our thinking. It's common knowledge that if you think you can do something, you will. Similarly, if you think you can't, you can't. So today I'm going to start breaking down the thinking process so you can better understand why you may want to change your patterns of thinking. What you believe is what you become. And my hope for you is to learn to change your own experience, your thoughts, and get some actual control over what happens in your brain. Many people are prisoners of their own brain, and it's as if they're chained to the last seat of the bus and someone else is doing the driving. My desire for you is to learn how to drive your own bus. If you don't give your brain a little direction, either it will just run randomly on its own, or other people will find ways to run it for you. And they may not always have your best interests in mind. And even if they do, they might not always get it right. As level-headed human beings, we tend to believe that we are fully aware of what we're doing, and that what we're doing is making informed decisions based on facts. Nevertheless, the latest scientific understanding of how the human mind works demonstrates that it's not the case, and that the vast majority of what we think, feel, and do is automatically driven by a part of our mind that we have no conscious access to, our unconscious mind. The conscious mind determines our actions, and the unconscious determines our reactions. Picture an iceberg floating in a cold, cold ocean. That is your mind. The bit at the top is your conscious mind. The conscious mind is what is showing above the ocean, and the rest of the iceberg below the water is your sub and unconscious mind. Depending on the source, your conscious mind is 5 to 10% of your mind. We are largely unaware, consciously, of 90%-ish of what is happening in our brain. The conscious mind is your creative mind, your thinking mind, the mind that's listening to me now, hopefully, and it can only hold one thought at a time. The conscious mind, or ego, is our awareness at the present moment. It has specific mental functions such as being aware of our environment. The conscious mind is the captain on the bridge of the ship giving out orders, whereas the subconscious and unconscious below the waterline are the crew who guide the ship based on their training. The training they receive from the conscious mind. The subconscious is where our recent memories live. It has accessible information that you can become aware of when you direct your attention to it. So, for example, you can talk on a mobile phone and walk home at the same time because the path home is easily accessed by bringing it up from your subconscious to your consciousness. This is where your phone numbers are stored. The unconscious mind, in the depths of our mind, is primitive with instinctual wishes. This is where the unconscious forces are, beliefs, patterns, maps of reality that drive your behaviors today and every day. This is the bottom of the ocean where repressed trauma lives or consciously forgotten memories. The unconscious mind is vast, the deepest depths of the ocean, and inaccessible to the conscious mind. Yet the conscious and the unconscious communicate and give meaning to all of our interactions in the world as filtered by our beliefs and habits. The unconscious communicates by feelings, emotions, imagination, sensation, and dreams. In other words, the conscious mind is the keyboard and monitor. It inputs data and sees the results on the screen. When stuff happens, you are immediately aware of it with your conscious mind. It identifies information coming in from the senses, visual, our sight, hearing through our ears, kinesthetic, our feeling sense, olfactory through our nose, and gustatory through our taste. The 5 senses of the body. The brain identifies, compares, analyzes this information that's being bombarded with, approximately 2 million bits of information. And because the conscious can only process 150 bits of information at a time, it begins to delete, distort, and generalize the information into manageable chunks to process. So when a decision is made after taking all that information in with the senses and deleting, distorting, and generalizing, that is what's transmitted to the unconscious mind. The subconscious, where current programs are that you run every day, or recent memories are stored there for quick recall, like telephone numbers, addresses, names, everyday thoughts, behavior patterns, habits, and feelings. The unconscious mind is the hard disk, the long-term storage, memories, programs installed since birth. It's the cellar, the underground library with all deep-seated emotions since birth. The sub and the unconscious mind make sense of all the data you receive and keep you safe and ensure your survival. I often refer to the unconscious as your best friend. Their logic is, if it worked well in the past and you survived it, then it will help you get through similar situations. So no matter how misguided, painful, and unhelpful the results may be to you personally, picking a certain type of partner, using substances to numb your pain, doing shy to stay safe, for example, are all things that worked when we were young but don't necessarily work when we get a little older. The conscious mind determines our actions, and the unconscious mind determines our reactions. So, for example, if somebody tells you you're not good enough to get that raise, you're not good enough to finish that race, you're not good enough to be a good partner, whatever it is, you may accept it or reject it based on your learned thinking patterns. If you accept it, then that thought, I'm not good enough, is programmed into your unconscious mind. Now, the unconscious mind communicates through feelings and emotions. So when we think bad thoughts about ourselves, we feel bad. If we think good things, we feel good. Much of the programming took place before the age of 7, yet we are often unaware of that programming until we consciously observe our thoughts and behaviors later in life. When I was a little girl, I loved fairy tales. I dreamt of becoming Snow White or Cinderella. I wanted to go to a ball. At age 5, it was time for me to go to school. I didn't like school. I missed being home with my mom, and so one day I got up and started to leave the classroom. My teacher, Mrs. Usher, grabbed me and told me to sit down at my desk, but I struggled and pushed my elbows into her side, so she let go and I ran home. I was free. When I got home, Mom said I had to go back to school. Bummer. But Mommy, I said, I don't want to. Now, Pam, you want to be a princess when you grow up, don't you? Well, yes, Mommy. Well, every princess has to go to school to learn to read and write. If you don't go to school, then you can never be a princess. Huh. Well, that was enough to convince me to go to school. I not only went to class every day, I attended school with exuberance. I was determined to do so well I could become a princess. Now, I tell you that story because I didn't remember it until much later in life when I was doing some work on myself. I had always loved school, but wasn't consciously aware that that pattern started at the age of 5. The princess story was one of the best things that my mom ever did for me, and for that, I am extremely grateful. Sometimes those close to us do things that program negative patterns in our brain. One day when I was 3, I was sitting at the top of the stairs. My brother came from behind me and kicked me with both his feet, causing me to tumble down the stairs, banging my little head and body along the way. I emerged at the bottom of the stairs, stunned, in pain. I began to cry. I know now I was traumatized. His actions programmed the thoughts, boys hurt, boys are mean, into my brain. Often through no fault of our own, we have thinking patterns that we're not even aware of that don't serve us well now that we're grown. If today I believed that all boys are mean, I would not be married to the wonderful man that I'm married to today. It did take some work, I have to say, to overcome my trust issues. But that's for another story. Once patterns are established in the unconscious, they are hardwired. There is no delete button. What we need to learn is how to rewire our brains for positive results and circumvent the old pattern. And there are several ways we can do this. So here's one now, so listen up. The 2 most powerful functions your fully developed conscious mind can do that your unconscious can't is number 1, direct your focus, and number 2, imagine that which is not real or real right now. These 2 abilities can change your life. How? By making a choice. Choosing to direct your focus is simply making a choice, deciding how you will think and what thoughts you will allow into your mind will determine your destiny. It can literally be used for good or bad, for construction or destruction. Your unconscious mind has a much stronger sense of awareness of your surroundings than your conscious mind. It's always switched on, even when we're sleeping. It obeys the orders from your conscious mind. The conscious mind filters. The unconscious mind is a sponge. And what's really important, really important, is that your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. I'm going to say that one more time. Your unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. If all you do is focus your conscious thoughts continually on negative things, imagining bad things, then your unconscious mind will obediently deliver the feelings, emotions, and memories that you've associated with that type of thinking, which could then lead to a never-ending loop of fear and anxiety. And wouldn't you rather feel relaxed and joyful? Remember, you are all-powerful. The ability of your conscious mind to direct your attention and awareness is one of the most important powers you have. Think of it as a superpower. To create change in your life, you must learn to control what you consciously focus on. The creativity of your conscious mind is freedom from the past. We all crave an extraordinary life, unique from everyone else's, because we are unique. Remember, nobody in the world thinks like you. What you think and feel is unique. You're not living anybody else's dream. If you want to live a magnificent life on your terms, you need to train your brain. Richard Bandler, one of the founders of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP, said in his book, Magic in Action, "The brain is an archival system, not a rewrite system. It doesn't have an erase function, so you don't get to rewrite your past. What you must do is teach the brain to go in a new direction, to go here instead of there." And I say, with a little brain exercise, focusing on the good, the positive, the direction of your dreams will become a habit. And it takes about 21 days to create that habit. Not that long. I think we all have the time pretty much to do that now. Unless we're a healthcare worker or one of the amazing people delivering food or riding buses. I'm going to show you ways you can direct your focus and clear the murk from your mind with my podcasts. This will then open some space in your mind to get clarity in what you do want and not dwell on what you don't want. So the following is a quick exercise that you can do when you catch yourself having a negative thought. It only takes a few minutes and will help you eliminate negative thoughts from your conscious mind. Yay! So if you're on a bicycle or driving a car right now, please pause here until you're someplace safe where you can close your eyes for a few minutes and engage your imagination. I'll preface this exercise by saying it may seem silly, but it works, and I'm living proof that it does. So can you just go with it and flex your imagination and remember that the unconscious brain doesn't know what's real or imagined, and this exercise helps to cut through the pathway in your brain that has created the negative thought habit. So what you need to do right now is pick a negative thought. And for the purposes of this exercise and doing it for the first time, perhaps you don't choose something earth-shattering, but something run-of-the-mill, such as, "I'm no good at singing," or "my ears are too big," or, "I look silly in pink slippers." Got the thought? Okay, now think about where in your head you have that negative thought. You probably want to close your eyes for this if I didn't mention that already, because we tend to imagine better with eyes closed. So think about where in your head you have that negative thought. Where's that voice in your head? For me, when I have negative self-talk, it's located on the right side of my head. Think about where you feel your negative self-talk. Is it in your head or is it somewhere else in your body? Okay, everybody has a thought? Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing much and 10 being severe, rate that negative thought. How would you rate that thought? Is it a 3, a 5, a 6? Okay, now I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you haven't already, so you can utilize your imagination the most. And start thinking that thought. Now, as you think that negative thought, I want you to turn the voice into a funny cartoon character or silly voice, so it's hard to take it seriously. I like Bugs Bunny, I like Frodo, but whatever works for you. Just turn the voice into a funny cartoon character or silly voice, so it's hard to take it seriously. Now change the tone and the rhythm of the voice. Change the cadence. If the voice is high-pitched, you might make it low-pitched. If the cadence is quick, you might slow it down, vice versa. Change the tone and the rhythm of that funny cartoon character, silly voice in your head that's thinking that thought. Now in your mind's eye, override the thought with music. Pick your favorite song or any other sounds that you like. And you might even envision turning up the volume so that you can drown that out, override that negative thought with music. Now, as you're sitting there listening to that funny cartoon character with the tone and rhythm all out of whack and barely can hear it with any music, maybe can't even hear it at all, I want you to turn the voice to speaking away from you instead of towards you. Turn the voice away, speaking away from you. Now, move that voice outside of your body. Above your head, beside your head, below your head, wherever you want to, but just get it out of your head and move it outside your body. And if you're feeling it anywhere else in your body, move it out of there. Now imagine that you have a giant slingshot. You take that voice, that silly voice, and you place it in the sling. Now take that sling and pull it back as far as you possibly can and let go and propel that negative self-talk into the distance. As far as you need it to go, the other side of the world, Mars, wherever, you just propel that negative thought as far away from you as you need it to go. And when you're done, open your eyes. Now, when you think that thought, you're going to find that if you've done this correctly, that the intensity has reduced. Just note what it's down to. So if maybe it started as a 7, if it's down to a 5, you might want to repeat that exercise 1 or 2 more times to keep reducing the intensity of the thought. Just simply repeat the exercise until the thought is down to a number you are comfortable with. And if you're working on a thought such as I'm frightened by bears, you may wish to leave the intensity at 2 or 3, so you will keep a safe distance from them in the future. You can do this visualization anytime you are aware of a negative thought. And over time it will become automatic because you've trained your brain. You've developed a positive habit. So perhaps now's the time to do that every day for 21 days. Now, when I'm having a negative thought, because I have done this visualization so many times, I just kind of quickly run through the motions and I can just dissolve a negative thought, just like whoop, instantly almost, because I've done this enough. Another thing you can do anytime when you have a negative thought is just raise your eyebrows and look up. Your mind won't be able to hold on to that thought. Raise your eyebrows and look up, and your mind won't be able to hold on to that thought. So practice, visualize, and practice, and reprogram your mind. We are in a time of unprecedented change, and many of us have extra time on our hands. Why not use the time to minimize the effect of your negative thinking patterns so you can emerge a greater expression of yourself? Choice is a fundamental power of human experience with infinite consequences. Choose wisely. Please remember to subscribe and share across social media. I'd really appreciate that. And I'd also love to see your thoughts, so please send your feedback my way so I know how to help you the most. Thank you again. Ciao for now.